Again, everybody, thank you for joining this evening. If you're just joining and you don't have a call sign next to your name, if you would do so, I'd appreciate it. First name and call sign will be enough. That's how Steve or Pat takes a roll. I got 7 o'clock on the money, so thank you everybody for joining this evening to the March Longmont Amateur Radio Club monthly meeting. Good to see the big turnout. This is what I like to see in the club. Should be a great topic this evening. It's something that definitely all of us need to hear about and we can listen to, and it's all about talking and listening. So that's what Bob does, is microphones and audio devices. So it should be good for all of us. Really quick, a couple announcements. This Sunday, we're having a VE test session at 350 Terry Street. So if you'd like to upgrade your license, or if you're new and you don't have a license yet, you can come out and test. You need to sign up online, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kat, hamstudy.org is where you sign up. And there's slots because we're only allowing 10 people to test at a time. It is being hosted by us, and Laurel VE is doing it as well with us in conjunction with them. And so it's a free test. It will be, you can take it on a computer, your tablet, if you want to bring that in to take it on that without paper, and get you a time slot. I believe the 9 o'clock time slots are already filled. I believe 10 o'clock, I haven't looked lately, 10 o'clock was almost filled. Last time I looked, it was filled. And when we do get enough people, they do add additional sessions as well. So usually we've run up to 4 or 5 sessions at a time before. So if you see something filled up, another session should pop up soon, and keep an eye on that. Also this Saturday, it's a busy weekend for LARC. This Saturday, Mike and I, W0KKI, will be doing a POTA, Parks on the Air, at Boyd Lake State Park. If you'd like to come out and join us, we would ask that you would sign up. We're trying to keep it, because of the COVID restrictions, following the rules a little bit. There is a sign-up sheet. You can reach it from the website. We have some time slots set up where you can come out. One of the things we're looking to do is, of course, contacts and activate the park, but also we'll have the club's Go Box out there. If you're not familiar with the club's Go Box, if you are a member of the club, we have a portable box that you could use. Once you're trained on it, we get you certified, and then you can check it out for a week or whatever and play with it and get to learn ham radio a little bit more, especially if you're a newer ham and you don't have your own equipment already. It has an ICOM 7300 in it and a Kenwood 710 GA for UHF, VHF. We have antennas for both now, which we didn't have before. Totally portable. We have a battery for it, or you can plug it into the wall and use it in your ham shack. There's also a computer that comes with it for doing digital modes as well. So this thing is full geared, right up to go for a new ham to learn new things on. So if you get a chance to come join us, you're more than welcome. We'll get you trained. I'm going to try to do some more training down the road to get more people trained on it, and then you can sign it out and use it as well. Does any club board members have any announcements that they like to bring up?
This is Steve, K0STE for membership.
Go ahead, Steve.
We will have a door prize that'll be awarded to one of the attendees tonight. We'll work on that with Pat after the meeting, and I'll contact the winner for see what prize they would like.
Thank you very much, Steve. Always keeping it interesting. We appreciate that. Just so you know, also as a reminder, which I forgot, the 27th of March, and you can see this on the website as well, we are doing a fox hunt. Basically, this is our first one that I've ever participated in, so it's kind of a trial and error type thing. But we're doing it differently than a normal fox hunt. Normally a fox hunt, your transmitter will transmit for 30, 45 seconds, CW, and you go track it down. Well, I decided to make it a little bit more interesting. We're doing an SSTV fox hunt. So if you got your phone and decoding software, you can decode the pictures. You can still do it with a little HT. You can still use your body as an attenuator. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to do a fox hunt. So Go online, check out Google, check out ham radio fox hunt or transmitter hunting. There's all kinds of good information out there. Some people I've seen build their own antennas for this. You can build a nice little cheap $2-3 antenna with PVC and a piece of coax and some tape measures. I've built 2 of them myself, one UHF, one VHF. It will be VHF. It will start at 9 a.m. on the 27th. We're not meeting anywhere. Basically, the flyer says the parameters for the fox hunt is from Route 52 to County Road 66 to 287 to I-25. So somewhere in that area is going to be this fox. We'll run it till 2. I think I have it till 2 o'clock. So get plenty of time to go out and find it. Grab the pictures. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And hopefully I have some people attend, and we'll do this more often. I'm working with other clubs as well to do a major fox hunt here later this year. But more details on that after I have a meeting on Friday night. So we have approached Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club with the board's approval to talk about doing a joint club event. And we're looking at maybe putting another fox hunt together that'll be a lot larger, a lot more foxes, prizes, and things like that potentially as well. Again, this is a free event this week on the 27th. So grab your radios, see if you can pick up a signal, and come find the fox. Because it is going to be slow scan TV, and the way I have it set up, it is going to have to be done with human interaction, unfortunately. So I will be there, so you'll get a chance to come out and see me as well. That might scare people off, but I'll be on site because I got to move the camera and get different pictures and different angles, so kind of an idea where the fox is at. All right. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to bring up to the club this evening before we get started?
Yeah, Chuck, I've got one. And I want to make a comment on the fox hunt. That's also, even though it's involving SSTV, you would still be able to work it as a traditional fox hunt and just use the signal strength of the SSTV transmitter to hone in on the fox. So don't let that scare you away at all if you're not familiar with SSTV.
Thank you.
Wanted to mention the Rocky Mountain Ham Universities put on by the RM Ham Group. It's a series of free online classes and presentations. The next one they've got coming up is Wednesday, March 24th, and it's on Pi-Star from the ground up. Pi-Star is basically, it's a Raspberry Pi-based distribution that you can set up. It's primarily oriented around accessing digital radio networks, things like D-Star, DMR, and System Fusion. I noticed they also have the presentation up for the last one, which was on lightning protection. That's up and available on their webpage, which is rmham.org. That's Romeo Mike Hotel Alpha Mike.org, and then you pick RM Ham University at the top of the webpage. They've also got their videos available on YouTube if you just search for Rocky Mountain Ham Radio. That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Anybody else got any other announcements this evening for the club? All right. As always, the splatter came out this week, so hopefully everybody got a chance to look at that or will. And again, a public thank you to Kat for putting that on as our editor, and we appreciate it because it's a big benefit of the club to get all that information out. So we appreciate that.
Don't forget to go in there and vote in our poll on, I think it's on page 5.
Yeah, I want you to get a plug-in for it, Kat. Got to plug your work. All right. Since nobody's got anything else, Bob, the show is yours, sir.
I is here.
And you should be able to share your screen and everything else. I made you a co-host, so you should be good to go.
You ask about recording. That's quite all right.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Are we ready to go?
The floor is all yours.
All right. Well, first of all, Kat, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate coming to clubs. I've been doing these since last March, and we're just about to top number 200. So my weeks and days are full, but that's okay because I certainly enjoy bringing a lot more to it, all kinds of titles you can lay on it. But what I want to do is I'm going to bring you into a little bit of where I came from. But then we're going to move into some very serious stuff. You might want to get your pencils out because there's a lot of good things that you might be able to pick up. I started this whole career of mine. I was 12 years old playing the organ, and at 14 I became a professional, making quite a bit of money as a young kid. And at 15 years old, I became the organist at the Fox Theater in St. Louis. Now, why this is important that I tell you all of this is that in joining the organist there, who was Stan Can, I became his protege. We had to voice and tune about 3,000 pipes in that organ from 1 inch to 32 foot. The situation is that tuning is no big deal. Octaves, anybody can practically do that. But when you look at me standing there by some trumpets, they're all different lengths, of course, because of the tuning, but they have to sound the same. That's the key. Voicing so that one wouldn't be muffled and one wouldn't be bright. You pick out what you want as a voicer, and they all had to sound alike.
Hey,
Well,
Bob, you
yes.
want to share your screen and then make it full screen for everybody instead of just seeing the little thumbnail? If you go to the bottom, you should have an option for share screen.
See what happens there.
There we go. Now we can see your screen. We're not seeing your presentation, but we're seeing the Zoom thing. So,
did that get it?
Well, it's not your presentation.
I was seeing his picture looking just fine full screen before.
Oh, were you? Because I only saw the thumbnail.
Yeah, I think if you just, that's going to be on your end. If you pin it, then it'll go full screen.
Okay. So were you sharing before then, Bob?
Usually they just spotlight it and then it comes full screen to everybody.
Okay.
But okay. We okay? Everybody ready?
Okay, I spotlighted and I see it now, but yeah, I also see your other desktop as well. So if you want to stop on sharing that one.
Yeah, if I do that.
There you go. There we go.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
And the whole situation and why I bring this up, it's how I learned to listen. Listening is a very important thing. Hearing is a physical process. Everybody hears. But listening is a mental process, digging in and listening to the harmonics, the distortions, and all of this. And it's so valuable in amateur radio, but nobody talks about how to listen. And that's what we're into tonight. We're going to get really into that. I started my amateur radio career in 1956. I became a technician. I was a technician for 17 years. That Harvey Wells you see there, that Harvey Wells is still with me. It's right there. And many times in the mornings, we have an AM net each morning on 3885. I love AM. But what happened here is it was the largest sunspot cycle ever. That was amazing. The 6 meters was open all the time. I say that to people and they hardly believe it unless you were there. It was amazing. I would come home from the Fox playing the organ. We'll get home about 11, 12 o'clock. The 6 meters was open all into the morning, into the next day. So I had no use for another license or another frequency. But I'm listening around one day and I heard this ridiculous signal. Oh my goodness, it was so distorted. What's wrong with his audio? Came back the next night and there he was again. So I got enough gumption to call him and he came back. But I hit the button on my SX99. That was the BFO button. This guy was on single sideband on 6 meters. That wasn't heard of. He was one of the very, very first that was on single sideband. So I started talking to him every night. I was 50 miles from him. And it was really an interesting thing to this young kid. Come to find out, it was K0DGE, Larry Burroughs. And he was building one of the very first single sideband transmitters. You didn't certainly buy one in those days. And I told him I'd come in to play the Fox, and I did 3 or 4 times a week. He said, well, come by and see me one day. So I roll up in front of his address, KMOX radio, Larry Burroughs was the chief engineer of CBS. That sounds like kind of fun. Nope, won't do it. But I'm going to teach you how. And he did. It started my building craze. We built a kit from a 10B Central Electronics. That was the first commercial single sideband transmitter by Wes Shum, 1948. It had plug-in coils, so I didn't plug in any of the coils. And Larry taught me how to use a grid dip meter and wind a 6-meter coil. So we had the exciter on 14 megs, but how do you get to 6 meters? He taught me how to build an oscillator with a 6U8. And it was pretty simple from there. Took that 36 megs out, plugged it into crystal socket, bingo. The station grew really quickly because I was doing very well financially as a young kid, playing the organ and doing a lot of wonderful other things with Hammond organ and the pipe organ. But I became an antenna nut. I mean, just a nut. We had a Motorola dealer that lived down the pike from us. He helped me put this up. He and engineer from a contracting company. He had booms and cranes. That's a 110-foot Roan with a 36-foot long 6-meter 11 element, and then the J beams for 2 meters on top. I have these loving parents. My parents were unbelievable. They allowed me to do just about anything, but there again, I was paying my way, so I could make it happen. Well, at that time, the Telerex company had come out with a new antenna called the spiral array. You'll notice that none of the elements are horizontal and none are vertical. And what this was supposed to do, which it did, was it allowed the fading to be reduced. You see, when you're listening to a signal and it fades, you might think, well, he lost his power or something. No. When a signal leaves your antenna, it's changing polarity many times before it gets to the receiving antenna, perhaps. And Telerex thought perhaps we could do this a little better. And it did. It worked. The fading was not as bad with the spiral array. Well, the next thing I did is I bought a Johnson 6 and 2 Thunderbolt, built that from a kit. And Larry Burroughs was guiding me through it. He wouldn't build it for me, but he was guiding it. And you'll notice in that rack up above my head is a 20A. That's the next step up. That was a band switching Central Electronics that I built. It's still with me. It's right there. And again, I use that quite a bit on sideband and for the vintage sideband nets. And I just had so much fun with all this because I knew it was the station was rare, but I didn't know how rare. I get a call one day from Bob Drake of the Drake Company, and he said, "You the guy that's got that kilowatt on sideband on 6 meters?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "We want to invite you to our club. We hold a technical meeting once a year, and we call for technical papers, and we'd love to have you come and tell us how you did this." So I was telling one of my friends on 2 meters there locally. He said, "I've heard about those meetings." And he said, "I got an airplane. Let's fly." So we got up in his Bonanza and we took off and away we went. I flew to the Biltmore Hotel. What they did there is they took all the furniture out of one floor. And they had the Collins room, the Hallicrafter room, Central Electronics, Mosley, Telerex, all these great people that I used to read in the magazines about. Oh my gosh, these were celebrities to me. So this kid was incredibly impressed. Well, that was the beginning of the Dayton Hamvention. It was held in the Biltmore up until 1964, when it then moved to Hara Arena. But they were mostly technical meetings. Those 600 people could, of course, talk to all of the celebs and get questions answered and all that. But it was a really exciting thing for me. That's where I discovered that I was one of the first 10 on single sideband on VHF. The guy had come to me during that meeting. He said, "We are looking for somebody that can run some high power on 2 meters. We want to do an antenna test. Would you be willing?" Absolutely. So he sent me over a 128 element J-beam. Again, the Motorola dealer and the contractor, K9 SGD and K9 EB motors that could turn it, rotate it, as well as point it to the moon. That was a 50-foot roan for a boom and a 50-foot high. That was in a lot next to us, still had up the 110-footer. But in 61, I built the first band switching transverter. So the 20A was on 20 meters, and we could get on 6 or 2 meters driving a Thunderbolt. So it's a pretty big signal, I can tell you that. But I got a job with CQ Magazine in 62. I was writing a column called VHF single sideband. That's how very rare single sideband was on VHF, and became the mode for the serious VHFers, guys that we just love to build. It was a place to experiment, but I just kept moving and building and having more fun. But back to my career, I also, about that time, got a job at the Holiday Inn in St. Louis. It was the largest Holiday Inn in the chain, had 600 rooms on one floor. And I built a pipe organ in that restaurant. It was a 4-star German restaurant called Schneidhorst. And it was really fun. The pipes were all behind glass, so the dining people could see all that. All the instruments you see on that piano, they all worked from solenoids that I got from a pinball machine company, keyed from the keys, just like in the Wurlitzer pipe organ. Only in the Wurlitzers, they were air driven. The piano had actuators that could play that from the keyboard. It was great fun. And of course, I'm still doing that today, only on the Wurlitzers. But I got tired. I'd been playing for 12 years, 6 nights a week, barely made it through high school. I didn't really care about all that because I was doing very well. So why not? But my parents had a shoe store in Marissa, Illinois, 50 miles south of St. Louis. In fact, that's my dad standing there halfway down that in the white shirt. That was his shoe store. He and mom ran. Well, I started this store called the Ye Old Music Shop. It became a very famous music shop worldwide, actually. And I started by selling Hammond organs, but I was converting them and doing all kinds of things. Would cut them in half, make them a lot lighter because they were heavy to carry when the band started carrying. However, the bands discovered this guy with a soldering iron, and I could fix things. They'd bring amplifiers to me and I could fix them and all that. But in renting the Hammond organs, I discovered from some of the large shows we'd do around the St. Louis area in the arenas and hockey rinks that the sound systems were terrible because they were built back in the 30s. And the music of those days, they needed more. So I got busy and I started building sound systems, big ones. That's just one side. That one up in the left, the guys are standing on top of those big cabinets. And it was really something because people would come into St. Louis and rent that sound system. And we're talking about a lot of country people that were very famous. But the Fox came back in my life again. I got a call one day and they had given me some of those large speakers that they were throwing out. And that was the basis of my sound system. And he said, "Hey, Heil, you still have those speakers?" And I said, "Yes, sir. What's up?" He said, "I got a problem. This band came in here tonight and they don't have any equipment." I said, "What happened to it?" He said, "It got confiscated by the DEA." I said, "Do what?" He said, "Talk to this guy." This guy was Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. And if any of you are rock historians, you know what's coming. They had a sound man who owned all the sound equipment, and he was on probation out of the state of California because he was one of the instigators of LSD. And the DEA knew he was going to go this little tour with the Dead. We're going to do New Orleans and St. Louis and on out to New Jersey. So they came and sit in the last row of the warehouse in New Orleans. And after the show, the band comes on to St. Louis. There were no cell phones, and just expecting we'll see you there. Well, no, they padlocked him and they padlocked the equipment, and that's it. They called and found out when they got to the Fox that afternoon, they called and found out he was in jail. So what do you do? And so I told Jerry what I had. I had Macintosh amps and some of the Olsen bins, JBL horns and speakers. He was like, he was incredible and impressed. He wouldn't think anybody in the Midwest could do this, but we had something, and I didn't even know it. I'm a ham. I was able to do all of this because of amateur radio, and it was an amazing night. It was a historic night. He wrote an article called "The Night Rock and Roll Sound Was Born." You can look it up on Google. You'll hear and read the whole scenario of what happened that night. Well, they took us out of there. We finished the tour and all hell broke loose. That article appeared in Billboard magazine and everybody was calling me. It was just really something for this little kid from Marissa, let me tell you. But it was all because of ham radio. But I'm a very straight guy. I've never tasted beer. I've never smoked anything and done any drugs. And I'm running around with all these crazies, but I respected them for their artistry. Well, they respected me because I could fix things for them. It was a wonderful, wonderful union that happened during those days. And everybody was really coming to me, wanting me to help them. And we're talking Jeff Beck, Humble Pie, Beach Boys, Les Paul, all these people. Well, the problem was we started doing their tours and they were a mess because one guy'd have a Volkswagen van with some things in it, another guy'd have a pickup truck, another guy'd have just a car. They wouldn't get there at the same time. And yeah, it was crazy. So I said, I'm going to stop this. So we were the first company to actually do tours. I rented a 40-foot semi. We leased that. And I found an old Greyhound bus. So we put 11 beds in there so we could sleep some of the roadies on the way, saved us some money. And we were doing all kinds of tours. One of the tours we did, the very first one, this one, nobody ever guesses who that is. It was their first tour. And nobody guesses because that is ZZ Top without beards. And we're still with them, still doing things. One thing about it, if I couldn't be a friend of the people, I didn't work with them. I didn't want to be their drug characters. I didn't want to be with them when they were doing all that. And they respected me. They didn't do it when they came to my store or my shop. No problem. They behaved. One of the others that was a biggie, and there's a lot of story around some of these, but I'm trying to hurry through it because I got so much of these things usually last a couple of hours. The Who called me and they were really in trouble. They came over here and they had a little PA with 4-foot columns, and that wasn't cutting it. And so they called me and said, you're the guy with the big PA, help us. And so we did. Went to Boston and helped them out of it. Well, Pete Townsend and I, we became really good friends. And one thing that's interesting, he's leaning on that chair, that red chair. Well, in front of him is a little Lowry home organ, a $900 home organ. And the situation there was, I'm sure you know of some of his writings. He would take that organ and couple it to the synthesizer, and he would do things like this. That's the beginning of Baba O'Reilly, done on that organ. Well, of course, being an organist and keyboarder, we really hit it off well. But why he called me, quad sound was really big right then. It was 1973. And he said, do you think you could build a PA that we can move Roger's voice around an arena? Well, no, it's not in my vocabulary. Ham radio in me again. And so we were just in the middle of building a new console. Nobody had ever built a console for rock music. It was all recording and stuff. And one of our sister companies in England, IES, and I were building this thing. But we caught it just in time that we could add 2 more output channels. And it was the first quad mixer that we built for Quadrophenia. I also was the leader in monitors. The larger the PA, the worse you can hear it on stage because all the sound is aimed to the audience. Well, we need monitors, but they feed back. You can't put a monitor in front of a microphone. I did because of ham radio. I figured it out. There's a whistle standing in front of about 800 watts of monitor. Why didn't it feed back? Phasing. We're going to get into that big time in a minute, and I'll prove it to you how I did it. We were doing a lot of festivals, crazy stuff. That one was, there were supposed to be merely 20,000 people. Well, it ended up with 200,000. I could go on and on. We did a lot of these crazy things. But I wrote the book. People asking me, where'd you learn all this? Where'd you get this? Where'd you go to college? I didn't go. I barely made it through high school. What are you talking about? And that book is still out there. It became the Bible for live engineers because most of the things you read today, even in ham radio, you got to be a third-degree engineer. No, I'm not an engineer. And I wrote this for us. And we'll come back to that. But along the way, I met this guy. This is where it gets very interesting. This guy was Joe Walsh, WB6ACU. And about the second date into the James Gang tour, we found out we were hams. And Joe was going to get out and do a solo act. And he had recorded a song, Rocky Mountain Way, in Nashville. And he had a thing that Bill and Dottie West, good friends of his, steel guitar players, they loaned him this little box they had built with a little speaker in it, and they recorded Rocky Mountain Way with that. It was an early talk box. Well, we were putting Barnstorm together in our plant in Marissa, and he's going, what are we going to do by that talk thing? I'm like, that's not going to be good enough for live. Hey, two hams, we figured it out. Put a 200-watt driver and we had our own fiberglass shop and made a little carrier for it, a little box. Bingo, we were ready to go. And I'm sure you know what this was. Again, it was all because of a couple of crazy hams. I did almost every concert that Humble Pie did when they came to America, and they had a young guitarist by the name of Peter Frampton. They pulled him out in '74 as a solo act, and his manager called me and said, make him sound good, because I was doing Humble Pie stuff, as well as we had a very good reputation in those days. And Peter met up with this little gal, Penny. A lot of guys that would come over here to America, they only had a 6-month green card. They either had to get married or become a citizen. Well, a lot of them would find a little gal and bingo. Well, he did. And it was really cool. If you know his music, I'm sure you know a thing called Penny for Your Thoughts. Well, that was Penny McCall. They were married in my home, by the way, in Marissa. Well, she called me just about 6 months after. She says, I need a Christmas present for Peter. Don't send him a guitar. I got a lot of them. So you know what I did? I sent him a talk box. And if you're a Peter Frampton fan, you know what came of it. All right, okay. He could actually make it talk. He was the only one that I've ever heard. And we become really good friends even up today. And he spent a year with that talk box after she gave it to him for Christmas. And of course, then he went and did the big album, the dual album, Frampton Comes Alive. I think he still holds a record for sales of a dual album. Great guitarist. Well, I kind of got out of all this stuff, and I got into the satellite business. We put in thousands of C-band satellites, but our reputation, of course, was out there because of that. And I would go to these trade shows and do a lot of things with that. Well, the Hubbard family had the DirecTV contract. They were the first guys to put up the K-band satellite, and they asked me to be on their experimental team. They sent me a 2-foot dish in 1991, and they would send signals down to me. Well, in 94, it was real. And I was on ABC television in those days. I was at KMOX, by the way, in St. Louis for 25 years prior to all of this, every Wednesday night. Looked like Wednesday night's my night, right? And announcing to the world that DirecTV is here. So just so many other stories into that. I do a lot of these things just focusing on if anybody wants to hear about those. They're pretty interesting. But I got a call from Paul Klipsch. Paul Klipsch was the father of the folded horn. Paul invented, so to speak, the whole movement of high fidelity. And he called me one day. I was freaked out. That you, Heil? And I said, yes, sir. Who this? There's a Klipsch here. I'm going, ooh, this is the audio god on this phone here. He wanted to come and see that 10,000 watt PA. He just couldn't. He wasn't into rock music, and he was into very efficient stuff. So he flew his bonanza up to Marissa. All day it was wonderful. I thought he was going to cut me off at the knees, but no, not at all. He was on a learning curve. Why'd you do that? Well, how come you did it that way? And you learned this from what? Ham radio? And he must kept going. Where'd you learn that? We became really good friends. Well, that night he sent me or put me in his plane, and we went back down to Hope, Arkansas, his home, where he had his own lab, and it was absolutely incredible. I learned so much in those few days with him. And here's where I want you to take some notes, because this is where it gets really good. He taught me things that I'd never heard about. It wasn't written in books. I was blessed to become a friend of his and a student of the great Paul Klipsch. He was teaching me about the studies of Bell Labs. He said, son, if you're doing all of this audio, you need to know about the history of audio. In 1921 or 2, the Idea Factory, they referred to it, it was the consolidation of Bell Labs and AT&T. That was Western Electric. Hey, that was the manufacturing arm of the Bell system. There were 4,000 scientists and engineers. You did not hear that wrong. 4,000 scientists and engineers. They were assigned to this newly created Bell Telephone Labs, and they were fully dedicated, now listen up, to researching how our ears worked and what frequencies were most important to understand the spoken word. What was all of that about? Here's what it's about. They put the telephone system together, and they had 2 wires. These 2 wires went from New Jersey all across America to the West Coast. And every 50 miles was a relay station. Wow. To keep the frequency up, to keep the voltage level up, so that when they got to the West Coast, it would be absolutely linear, right? Okay, and it was. But wait a minute. When they turned it on, this is kind of what they heard. And they weren't happy. It's like, what happened? What happened? No articulation? It was all muffled? What's the deal? Remember the 4,000 scientists? They were put onto this project to find out what was happening with this system. It was all linear. Why wasn't there any articulation? Huh? Well, they put two guys, Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson, on the case. And what they discovered was something really, really weird, but very true. The human being's ear, all of us, do not hear flat. We do not hear linear. And if you'll notice from the graph, we have huge holes depending upon the level. That's why kids like to listen to music real loud up there at 100, 110 dB. It's almost flat. But down here at 20 dB, where you're listening right now and things, it's not. What are we going to do? Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson figured it out. The human ear absolutely must have 2.5K. That's where all the articulation is. And once again, what I'm going to do, I got this set fairly flat. I'm going to take out 2.5K. Now listen, remember what we said earlier. Listening is a mental process. I'm going to take out 2.5K. That's all I'm doing. You're going to hear a lot of things around it happen, but I didn't do that. Here goes 2.5. Very good articulation, the F's and the F's, S's, P's, B's. You can understand all of those. Here. I did was take out one thing, that 2.5, as you see in the graph. 2.5K is gone. What happened? I'll put it back in. And what's interesting about it, it looks like I turned the bass down, didn't it? Nope. It's your ear. The human ear is really great. Your brain is figuring out the balance that it needs to hear. And it's so important to have elevated mid-range, because you get a lot of guys, oh, it's all going to be flat. No, it's not. No, you cannot do that, because voice communications has to have that elevated 2.5. Roll off that low end. It gets muddy. Here we go. I'm going to do that. If I add the low end, listen to what happens. If I take it out, how much cleaner things get. They get very clean. I didn't touch anything, but I took out the low end. You thought I turned up the mid-range. I didn't. That's your brain figuring it out. I'm going to bring the bass back in. And if you have too much bass, and I hear a lot of this today on the air, it's no good. You are wasting big time your power. Man, what do you mean, Heil? Let me get all this back. I have a great demonstration you're never going to forget. I got several of them tonight. This one's kind of a fave for me. The situation is that the human brain is something really special. And it needs that 2.5, especially in amateur radio when we're trying to cut through the noise. Check this out. Let's think about the air in this balloon being your RF. You set the band limits at 100. No, not 50 or anything. I always set it at 200. I don't need all that bass. And I set the top end, of course, it's 3K. You can't go any higher. So here we go. We're nice and flat and smooth. But if I can narrow that up and increase the articulation by raising 2.5K, what happens there? All of my power, where's it going? I've restricted it from being anything under 200. I've restricted the top end and I equalized it for 2.5K. Now what? You just heard it. I just let you hear that great demo. That's what I did. It wasn't like this. It was when I started. But when I equalize it, it's that. A lot of people say, oh, contesters, yeah, they're terrible. Well, we're going to get into that in a minute because they're not terrible. They have it right. I came back to radio. I was still playing the organ a little. I sold all of my sound systems and I said, uh-oh, what happened to my great Art Collins audio? I was really, really, really ticked off because the Art Collins audio was gone. What, what happened to it? Well, all the imports started coming in. Things I'd never heard of before. I'd been gone for 12 years. Kenwood, Yaesu, ICOM. I said, you know what? We need to have some equalization. Ham radio had never seen anything about equalization until this. I built the EQ 200. The EQ 200 was the first equalizer in amateur radio. I wrote an article for QST, and I didn't know where this was going, but they called me and told me that it was going to be the lead story, and it got the cover award. I didn't know about cover awards. And I said, well, it's just a little EQ box. They said, no. This is a defined movement in amateur radio communications. Nobody had ever done equalization. Well, I was. And so off we went. In 1999, I got a letter from Dr. Inouye. We're talking Inouye Communications, ICOM. Sent me a picture of his station. It had one of my EQ 200s and one of my gold lines. Whoa. He was thinking of building new transmitter line, and he wanted to use my equalizer from the Pro 1, Pro 2, Pro 3, all the way through to the great 7300, the 7610, and, oh boy, the new little 705. Is this something? Oh my goodness. Wow. What a cool little job this is if you haven't seen this. This is amazing. It's actually a 7300 in a little bitty 3-pound box operated from batteries. Runs about 5 watts. This is amazing stuff. I mean, all the graphs, the equalizers in there, everything you need. It's great. But anyway, they send these things to me because I have to do a headset for it. They're not going to build a headset. Well, we did. Our new little HTH works great into the 73. This also is for handy talkies. Handy talkies, the microphones are absolutely garbage. You know that. I know that. I did something about it. But my whole life has evolved around all of these things because I just do things that I think we need, and all of a sudden, wow. Well, the problem is that a lot of people, they don't know how to adjust the radio because the manufacturers just kind of put us out to pasture. It's very simple. All of the ICOMs from the Pro 1 look like this. It has some form of a graph, and you're going to roll off that low end just like you did a while ago for you. Take the bass down -2 or 3, increase that treble to +3 or so. But the first thing, pay attention. The absolute first thing you do to any transceiver before you ever think about transmitting, set the transmitter bandwidth. That's very important. Here, the bandwidth, we set it at 100 to 2900. That rolls off everything under 100. Band stops it at 29. What about the DX guys? They want maximum articulation. No, it's not pretty. So I came along in it was around 80, was it 3, right after the equalizer. And I started building microphone elements that would do just what we needed. And what we needed was really great articulation. So I built a microphone element that was absolutely terrible sounding. Here, I'll let you hear it. I'm telling you this. Remember, I built it, and I'm telling you it's terrible. But it is absolutely in your face audio. All of my power that I can generate is at 2.5K because of the element. You don't have to do much equalization. So all of your power is going to be right there. That's all I want. Because when my call is sent to the DXpeditions, guess who's on top? Me. That can be you. But you can adjust your transmitter to help you do some of that. It's very important. And here's how you do it. First of all, you roll off the transmit bandwidth, 500 to 2500. You don't need anything under 5. So then you go up to the equalizer and you notch out everything you can on the bass and plus 5 on the treble. And that's what you want to do. Yes, it sounds like you heard in the Pro 7, but it's what we need for that kind of communications. No, it's not pretty. For rag shoe, we're going to do that. Going to widen out the transmit filter and level out the EQ a bit. So the thing about all of this is you have to be the engineer. All of the ICOMs do the same. They just have little different graphs, as you see there. A lot of the beginning, got that at -2 + 3. Dr. Inouye also asked me to build a microphone. You see, these companies do not build their own microphones. I couldn't believe it when I learned that. They OEM them somebody. They're not part of the engineering staff. So I built the perfect microphone for the ICOM. I call it the ICM. $100 and it's amazing. Doesn't work on Kenwood, won't work on the Yaesu, only ICOM because of the fact that it has to be an active element. Well, a year or so after all of this happened with Dr. Inouye, we were building the Pro 1s at the time. Dr. Hasegawa came to me from Yaesu. He says, we want to do it better. I said, well, you could do a parametric. Yeah, that's good. I said, no, wait a minute. Was it bad? I said, education. What do you mean? Education. What do you mean? Well, I was right because they never did it right. The manuals that you get with your Yaesu, I don't even understand some of their graphs, but I'm going to teach you in about 2 minutes. If I had a 10-year-old child standing here that knew nothing about amateur radio, they would get it. Here's the deal. This is a shelving filter that I designed. I designed the low filter at 160 hertz. I designed a high filter, 2.5K. You have to be the engineer. You have to figure out all of this. But it's pretty simple. There are 3 filters. 3, and they have controls. That means, are you ready for this? Check it out. They have 9 controls for you to learn. 9, not 2. And all you have here is just plus or minus. Here, you have to figure it out. Well, it's pretty simple. After hearing a few things tonight, you know what I'm going to do. We're going to take that first filter. We're going to set the frequency at 200 hertz. We're going to minus it like -3, 5, something. Just roll off that low end. And the third one is bandwidth, audio bandwidth. You can get either 2 or 3 octaves. Just leave it at 2. It's not a big deal. So we're done with the first one. 200 on the frequency, -3 dB to roll it off. Now, what about the second filter? See, here's the problem. There's something that happens to audio up around 900 hertz, and it gets real boxy sounding. You want to do this to your ears, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just a boxy sound. Everything has it. It has to do, I think, with our ears, actually. So we're going to set the second filter, 900 minus 3 or 4 dB, 2 octaves. Hey, we're almost done. You're already ahead of me. I sure hope you are. You know where the third one's going, 2.5K plus 8. We want all we can get. And it's so simple. And there it is, laid out for you. All 9 controls, frequency, level, width, frequency, level, width, frequency, level, width. Very simple. Over on that left column, it's hard to see in this picture, it's kind of fuzzy. Doesn't mean anything. It's assignment numbers, 201, 202, 203. Doesn't mean anything. If you want to write it down, I guess. Okay. And they're all different. The new 101 has different assignment numbers. It has the 9 controls. It has the same parametric that we put together for Dr. Hasegawa. So all you got to do is learn this. Our website's full of this. Under support, if you haven't done this, please do. There's an amazing amount of stuff in there. All things AASU, all things Kenwood, all things ICOM. You can learn a lot from our website, heilsound.com. But the situation is there's just not enough written today that help us. It's all kind of against us. But we're here to help you. The other thing that you have to think about is how to use a microphone. What do you mean? I'm talking it. Yeah, but I hear a lot of people on the air. They get real far from their microphone. And here's the thing that I learned from the scientists. When you double the distance, you lose 6 dB. Think about it. You double your power. You went from 500 to 1,000 watts. You only got 3 dB. You're going to throw 6 dB away just by doing. See what I mean? Oh, well, shut up, Heil. All you got to do is reach over here and turn the gain up. Yeah, well, when I do that, it sounds like I'm in a barrel. So that doesn't work. No. That's why I brought booms to this industry in 1981. When I got back in, I said, man, can't work on my soldering iron and all this. So we did that. But if you use a desk stand, it's fine to do it, but you don't want to be very far from it. Otherwise, it's not going to be very good because you're going to lose a lot of your power. You're going to lose your transient response. You're going to lose your dynamic range. You're going to lose frequency response. You hear what I'm talking about? Remember, hearing, listen. And it's all about using a microphone properly. You also need one of these. I hear guys on the air. Oh, take that stupid muff thing off here. You're all muffled. If it's the right one, they have to be acoustically transparent. You go out and get a piece of foam or some dollar thing from Walmart. No, it's not acoustically transparent. Yes, it will be muffy. But this one, no, there's no difference. But why do I have it? The human voice, we exit air. And a lot of people exit more air than others, especially P's and B's. Well, you put that and the P's and the B's go somewhere else. That's why it's acoustically transparent. And all these little ants running around in here, and it directs it somewhere else, the air. So these are things that you just really need to think about. We got involved in the headset market because of the DXpeditions and all that. We got involved in building microphones for the entertainment industry, and just amazing amount of things that's happened in the last 20 years. We've been there 55 years, and the HM12 is from my wife, Sarah, who owns Heil Sound. She said, we need a microphone that's not very expensive and it sounds great. Well, that's it. And again, we just don't have enough time to go through all this, but have to come back sometime, let you hear some of this stuff. And you heard what that wonderful thing is. Sirius Radio just dumped all of their RE20s a couple last year, and they filled their booms and all of their consoles with PR40s. And this is an interesting thing. Joe Walsh, good friend, back in 2006, during that time, Sarah and I had a second home in California, and he said, "You need to build me a better microphone." And I said, "What's wrong with that ball thing you're using?" "Because it's a ball thing." He says, "I got to be stuck right on it. I want to be able to move it around, and I want to get rid of all that stuff coming from behind me." And so we did. Sat down at Joe's kitchen table and figured out what was going to happen here. And what I did, you see, every microphone out there, they have four little holes around here: 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. That's the entrance of the rear rejection, because it'll be out of phase. And it'll cancel. Well, that's not enough. So what I did, first of all, we were the first company to build a large diaphragm. Shure failed. They all failed. We're it, because of ham radio. We figured it out, how to tame a large diaphragm. These things are 1.5 inches, not 3/4. And they don't have 4 little holes. I opened up the whole bottom of it so that now the rear, from the lows, the mids, the highs, come up at the bottom of the element. They're out of phase. They cancel. Whoa. Watch your screen while I do this. When I talk in the back of this microphone, it's 40 dB down. Oh, it still works, but it's 40 dB down. And it's Omni on the front. Joe wanted a microphone that he could move around. He doesn't have to be stuck right in the front, and it takes nothing away. You try that with any other microphone and forget it. But we were very blessed that Joe gave me some instructions of what he wanted, because now, goodness gracious, there are so many of the folks that are using our microphones, and Grammy winners and all this. And again, it's all because of ham radio. We built you heard the Pro 7 because of what the Expeditions. And again, I love doing things that we really need to make happen. But there's one thing that I want to do for you. Again, I just so short a time, but I have to do this for you. Let me unplug this. I can tell you this, you're never going to forget the next 5 minutes. Never, ever. Because you're going to learn a whole lot about many things. First of all, remember that double your power thing? If I talk into both of these microphones, my VU meter is going to come up by 3 dB. You can probably see it on my meter over my head. Because 3 dB is not a lot. And the human ear cannot hear it. Check it out. When I talk into both of these, up comes my audio, 3 dB. 1, 2, 3. What? Remember what we talk about listening? It's mental. Close your eyes. Really do this. I'm going to take away 3 dB. This could be a couple of $1,000 if I took my amplifier away. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. The human ear cannot detect it. Wow, that's amazing. No, it's science. I have this magic little plug. Pin 3 is hooked to 2, 2 is hooked to 3. Well, is it going to work? Yeah, well, works just fine. Sounds exactly the same. But when I speak in this one, it's in phase. The diaphragm's going down into the voice coil. When I talk in this one, it's out of phase, and it comes up. When I talk into both of them out of phase, what's going to happen? Nothing. They cancel. Nothing. Oh man, can we have another hour? It's my favorite subject. How did Wes Shump? You see, if you had a contest, trivia contest, and said, who brought sideband to ham radio? You'd say Art Collins. Nope, he was 6 years late. It was Wes Shum with Central Electronics. How'd he delete the carrier? How'd he get rid of the other sideband? Some idiot comes flying on top of your conversation and you just hit your notch filter. He's gone. How's that work? How's your Yagi work? There are so many things of how does it work? The Yagi's really cool. Dr. Yagi didn't have a computer. He had to do this just by trial and error. And he figured out a driven element would be 468 divided by. That was easy. But then if he made it a little bit shorter and so far out, that was the experiment. Took him a long, long time to figure it out. He could get gain. If he made it longer and put it behind, it was out of phase. Hello, you know what happened. So all of this stuff is out there, and I don't hear about it, and I want to know why. It's just really sad. That's the whole problem. You don't read about this stuff, and yet here we are to try to figure out what we're going to do with some of this stuff. Well, phasing is really one of my favorite subjects. I love it to death. I also want to do something with the receiver. What are you talking about? What I'm talking about is I tried when I was really involved with the companies. Let me unplug this. Tried desperately to get them to listen to me about the receiver. Oh, receiver, fine. No, it's not. Because they're all talking about sensitivity and selectivity. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the audio response. It's terrible. What do you mean it's terrible? Just what I said. Every one of these receivers, I don't care if it's $15,000 or $400. It has 10% distortion at 1 or 2 watts. Oh, well, I got a speaker and it's matching. No, you have a 3-inch speaker. That's a little crumb speaker that they bought for next to nothing. They put it in a box, painted it the same color, and guess what? Hoodwinked by this, and it really got me. I said, we have to do something about this, and so I did. I built a parametric receive audio system, and I'm thinking, this could be really cool. Well, it is. Let's take a listen. I have a recording here that I did off air with it, and I think you're going to be able to really understand what's happening. This little box has 3 filters. It has one set at 160 hertz. It has one set at 6K, plus or minus. You can adjust that. But the middle one, that one, is parametric, meaning you can change the parameters of that filter. You can change the frequency, just like we did a while ago. So now, what's going to happen? Let's take a listen here. One of the things that I also did is I put 2 amplifiers for headphones. I have one that you can use for your logger, one for the operator, but that is really not what's really the big deal today, and I didn't think about it. People that have a hearing problem, one side or the other, they can plug the left side of their headphone here, the right side of the headphone here, and balance it up. How wonderful. And the way I made these recordings, I come out of the record out. Plug that into your computer, and you can make beautiful recordings without any Y chords or, any of that kind of crazy. We have Also, a situation that the speaker is amazing. It's a 5-inch speaker in a tuned cavity. Learned that from Paul Klipsch. And a 25-watt amp at 0.1. This is hi-fi levels. Let's go listen. Let me get to the DX, guys. We'll set these flat. Here's the way you hear it. Here we go.
Echo India 8 Bravo Lima Bravo.
Here's the way you hear him. Right there.
For Sierra.
Here we go.
Hope I have it right.
Bring it out of the noise.
Thank you from Ireland. Name is Lima India Alpha Mike. Over.
That's the way you hear it.
CQ 20 meters. Echo India 8 Bravo Lima Bravo. EI8LB calling in right.
I don't think there's an argument. It's like, why don't I have that? Well, now you can. It's not very expensive. Like the old drunk said, I spill more than that. Many guys get it with just for their headphones, but if you want the speaker, it's available too. But there's just so many things you can do today. So many things. And I want you to realize that this is all available. All available. We just have to think about it. And what I'm really excited about in that we're able to do these and help all of you, because there's no help coming from any of the magazines. Here's another one. Let's see if I can play this for you.
Array antenna system consisting of a pair of coaxial dipoles mounted atop a pair of 55-foot telephone poles. We put them in an inverted V fashion, and the poles are 64 foot apart. These are 500 foot from the operating position, fed with RG213. In order to make the antennas directly from east to west, we use a delay line of 43 foot here on 75 meters that's switched in and out of the driven element, either east or west. The downlead length is 126 foot. We take all of that coax, the downlead length, the 43 foot phasing delay line, and mounted them in a container, one of the plastic container boxes that we actually buried. And just the top of it shows. It's all sealed, so it's waterproof. But that's the way we get to switch all the components from 500 foot using one of the Amatron RCS 8V remote switches. How we can get at least 10 to 20 dB difference east to west.
Like a lot of people do. Mine's usually 3 inches or so. That's just after you done mow it. And I know, probably, we get a dry day. I'm gonna have to lay out there and mow. That's just all there is to it, because if you leave it that high, when it starts growing in it all, it gets looking ragged pretty quick. So it's to that point now, and
the system really performs on weak signals. Take a listen as we switch to the direction they're coming from. Also note the preamplifier makes no difference on 75 meters on this signal. The preamp will, of course, make the meter read higher, but in many cases, the preamplifier does not cause the weak signal to be more readable. Check it out.
yeah, well, I see they introduced big display on it, and I don't know if that is their form of portable, or what that is.
I built that so I could talk to my West Coast friends. We had a home down in the Ozarks for a number of years, and that's where it was, down by Springfield, Missouri. And it was great because I could get rid of the whole East Coast, or if I wanted to work Europe, wonderful. The only expense is that coil of wire, which was RG8. I had the 2 dipoles, went down to the co-op and they gave me the telephone poles. They have poles sitting around because they'll have like a 90-foot pole and gets all routed, so they cut them off and get rid of them. A lot of people don't know that, but there's just so many things going on like that. But I wanted you to hear some of these things. Again, there's just so much going on. And in closing, I want to point one other thing to you that I get really upset about, because I work for these guys and I'm in their factory. Why don't you fix this? And that's connectors. They're terrible. Little bitty rings. You have to have needle nose to tighten it down. We built our own. Went to Foster, who owns the patent, and they allowed me to do it better. A nice big ring. But here's the good part. You go look at any one of the cables you have at home that come from the matching microphones. You know what I'm talking about. It's only painted the same color, by the way. Serious. They use a piece of heat shrink or whatever, and in time it pulls out. So we build our own wire and we make the cable clamp to fit our wire. You can pull a car with that thing. It's wonderful. And the other one coming out is for your push to talk line. And the push to talk line, you could plug in your foot switch, or I did this for me some years ago, and some guys had come by and said, you need to do that. It's really cool. Should have called it a 38 special switch, I guess, because it's very comfortable. And our wire is amazing. This wire is 18 gauge. The wire you have in all your microphones is 24 to 26 gauge. The shield is absolutely garbage. You start unraveling it and you'll end up with 3 little spools. That was it. No, this is 100% braided silver. Solders beautifully. The wire is 18 gauge. And we do a balance line because most of our microphones, we wire them balanced into the transmitters. And the 2 outside of the shield are the DC for push to talk. That's a big problem. Every other cable, don't care whose it is, they're all encased into one shield. RFI, oh my goodness. And we saw a lot of RFI. But I really advise you to go to your dealer, or you can get it online from us. The handbook, I didn't write it, I compiled it. It has a lot of notes from Paul Klipsch, my friend Larry Burroughs, all of these things I've learned as a kid, and they're so useful, but you never read about them. What's on this? What's happening? It's really, really full of information. Last but not least, because of all of this in ham radio, we're the only manufacturer in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it's all because of ham radio. I just barely got out of high school. And so I was very, very honored by that. That's the console we built for Quadrophenia. The ZZ Top's mixer, the first talk box that Joe and I built. And all of it comes down to this. Recently, I received an honorary PhD from Missouri U. Goodness gracious, how blessed. How blessed. And it's all because of ham radio. And it's why I take this time, think about it. As I said, we're getting close to number 200 this year since last March. I love sharing this stuff because I want you to enjoy ham radio like I have for all these many, many years. And it's just about 65 now. And I want you to realize that there's a lot more to this hobby. And I hope you can make it happen. You have to have some questions and answers. So let's see what happens, please.
Yeah, if you got questions or answers, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask them. Bob, I personally want to say thank you. Wonderful presentation. Lots of things I didn't know. I've been a ham I'm a newer ham. I've been around about 4 years, but the audio aspect is a big chunk of ham radio. So, got to talk and you got to listen. So thank you very much. This is excellent presentation. So does anybody have any questions?
Bob, you've given us so much information. Tell us more about this box behind your head back there. It's kind of in the distance for us. We can hardly see it. This was the one that had the speaker in it and the many adjustments and the 2 speakers out. Do we just find it on the web or what?
You've got a lot of
Static there,
cable
Ted.
ad or something. Check it again. Let me see if I can hear you better. Let me crank up my level here.
I think he's referring to your parametric receive audio system equalizer, I believe.
Exactly. And of all people, sorry for the audio.
Boy, I'm not getting that.
Behind you is the parametric box, and we hardly got to see it because it's you'd really have to zoom in. What do we look for on the web?
Well, here it is. And that's the speaker. And speaker's 25 watts at 0.1. And it's balanced line, XLR. And that's the equalizer. Got the headphone amps and so on. But you go to our website, or any of the dealers can help you. And if you have any problem at all, you just send me an email. I get many a day, and that's what I do is I spend my time helping everybody. And if we get really involved, we'll get on the Skype or Zoom, and we'll help you work it out. It's not a problem, but I'm guaranteeing you, you will love what you get from the VRES. It's really, really something.
I've got a question. You've obviously had a very varied career and all kinds of experience and stuff over the years. What type of areas for experimentation do you see available nowadays for amateur radio? You know, we don't have to build all our stuff from scratch. We just go on Amazon and it shows up the next day. You know, what kind of things do you see still available for people getting into amateur radio now?
Did you ever see about our pine board project? We did this on a Ham Nation. It took us a year to do it. A lot of people say, well, you can't still build this. Oh, the heck you can't. This is the transmitter. And we build an equalizer and a power supply. And it's up over my head. You can't really see all of it. But hundreds of people built this, like over 1,000. How I know that is Antique Electric Supply has all the kits of parts. And they were just mesmerized with how many people were buying this kit when we started this on Ham Nation back. It was in 17 or so. Won the cover award back here. Pretty proud. I mean, we really turned a lot of soldering irons on because of this. So, of course, there's things you can build. Absolutely. And don't be afraid to try some of these things. They're out there. Believe it or not, MFJ has a bunch of kits that you can build. They're out there, and you want to work into that. I haven't dealt with any, but there's a lot of things with Arduinos and some of that stuff. Get into it. Get your soldering iron cooking because there's a lot of things you can do. Don't be afraid. Just don't burn yourself.
And Dan, you have a comment?
I do have a comment, and this isn't so much a question, but Bob, I wanted to. I'm not a very new ham, and I very much enjoyed watching Ham Nation, and I wanted to thank you because I had a problem with my initial radio setup, and you did a show with our RF chokes, and I'll tell you what, you didn't directly answer my question, but you certainly pushed me in the right direction to find my answer. So I just wanted to thank you personally, and thank you for your time tonight.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's, as I say, there's so much more that we can get into. What we're doing now is we're coming back to many of the clubs, and we're doing just picking out one little section and really diving into that one thing. So clubs we need presentations, and not just a speaker reading the paper. We need things to do that can help us, and that's exactly what I was called to do. And so if I can help you in any way, don't be shy. Send me an email and we'll help you. really do. I'm glad that you were helped. That's really good news. Thank you.
Chuck, Lucas, looks like you got a question.
Yeah, Bob, I wanted to say thank you too. I've only been a ham about 3 years, and I never built anything in my life, and I have all the stuff for the pine board project. I'm a little late to the party, and I know you've been real busy. You might not have heard this, but I just heard last week that after Bree passed away, that someone is going to take over AF4K and start offering crystals again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Yep, that's true. Mm-hmm. Yep, crystals are being made again. Like that one right there came from Bree. I don't have it right in front of me, but if you Google AF4K, he kept the same name of the company, and so yeah, crystals. You got to have crystals if you're building things. Don't be afraid to build these things. AM is extremely popular, so a lot of people would think, oh, it's an old. No, no, it's where we can build and share all this stuff, and that's what you want to do. So very good. Thanks for asking that, because that'll let people know that crystals are available. Very good. And don't be afraid. Go to my website. All the videos are there over that whole year. And a lot of the drawings are absolutely amazing. Gene W4IQN came forward during the very first of that. Thank goodness. He was a graphics guy. And if you've never seen the graphs he did, oh my goodness, you didn't need a schematic. It was better than Heathkit. And you go to my website under Pine Board, and you'll see some of those wonderful things he did. They were really cool. But I appreciate you asking, and like I say, stay in touch. We'll make it happen.
Any other questions or comments? Don't be
Yeah,
afraid. Go ahead, Dick.
I have a 590 SG, and I have the Kenwood MC90 mic. What would you suggest that might be better? I normally just rag chew. I do a little bit of contesting, but I'm an HOA, so I'm antenna compromised. Thought it would be nice to get as good audio out as possible. And I think that would help maybe the contesting a little. I don't do much, but the rag chewing and make it clearer.
Well, the 590 is a great transceiver. It has some equalization in it. And I would look at the PR 781, or you could look at the HM12, but the 781 it's really top drawer for ham radio, and equalize that a little bit and you'll be in good shape. Absolutely. Should you have problems, let me know.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
And another question, I imagine you've got a lot of ideas bouncing around in your head all the time. Are there any products you'd like to design or think need to be designed for amateur radio, but you don't think you'll have time to get around to at a corporate level?
Well, I've got a lot of things. I think we need to look into a little bit more of audio. Although the transceivers have a lot in them, but there are some other things that could happen. The parametric, if you're familiar with it, maybe you wouldn't be. I don't know if we can see this over here. Oh, come on, Heil. No, it's the parametric EQ. It's right here. There's a whole strip of all the controls and stuff. It basically what I did for the Yaesu in its own little box, and I think that's going to be good. There's a lot of other things that we're thinking about, but right now we're just trying to hold our own with all of these presentations. It takes a tremendous amount of time. Plus, I get over there and play that baby. I do quite a few shows on Zoom to organ fans, and Saturday nights at 7:00 Central, I do a theater organ show on WTWW, which is the 200,000 watt shortwave out of Nashville, 5.08. Just go to 5 megs to WWV and go a little bit right, and you'll see them. Can't miss them. The big signal. So I do a lot of that. writing some music. So I stay really busy with all of the things that I do. And so I don't know. I don't have anything just at the moment, but we'll pop up with something for sure. I appreciate you asking.
All right. Anybody got anything else? Questions, comments? I got a quick question for you, Bob. For say a starting ham, just getting into it, maybe like a say general license can only do parts of the HF, not all of HF. Which one of your mics would you recommend to maybe start out with, or would it depend on what type of transmitter you have?
That's one of the biggest problems. Guys will get an ICOM and stick a PR20 on it. Doesn't work well. I didn't design it for that. The HM12 as good as it. No, it's got to be an ICM. That's it. Or one of our headsets with the IC element in it. No problem. Question answered for any ICOM is the ICM. It's a great looking microphone too. And it comes in silver. This is great. But if you're doing anything of Kenwood or Yaesu, the HM12, it's an amazing microphone, and I really like it. It's excellent, and it's not very expensive, thanks to my sweet wife. We make no money on it. That's okay. No, money doesn't. That's not the factor here. We need to help people, and that's what we're doing with several of our products, even the parametric receive system. I get beat down by the board meetings every once in a while, but we need it. We need it. And when I get these calls from somebody and we get to talking and they start crying because they're really emotional about I gave them the radio back. What do you mean? Well, I got into it and I can't hear very well, but now I can. And those things are invaluable. So anything that I can ever do to help you, you just keep me posted. We'll be there for you.
Well, we appreciate that. And nowadays it's even better, and I'm sure you're making a big difference because we're seeing more people getting into ham radio again. At least here in Colorado, I mean, we're averaging 25 to 40 to 50 people at every test session, and we do them once a month.
Right.
And then there's 5 or 6 going on right now across the state at any one time, and they're averaging. So the hobby's getting more popular again. People are getting into it. One of the things I've worked on this club is trying to get the younger generation involved with it. And I sell it from the point of, hey, what if you could talk on a radio and talk to somebody across the world through the internet?
Yeah.
With like DMR or things like that, and it piques their interest. And so, thank you for all you do for ham radio. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of the clubs are buying my book in great amounts and giving them to all of their classes because it's something you can't learn this stuff anywhere else. So you might want to look into that.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into that.
Come back sometime and dig into other things. I appreciate the time and continue on. Always know that I'm around. Just send me an email. We'll be there for you.
Oh, we appreciate it. And maybe we'll get to hold you again to come and do another presentation at some point on, and then we'll make it specialized, like what you're saying, for other clubs. We'd love to do something like that. We'll have Kat keep in touch with you. So
okay. Yeah,
she's got the better voice.
Thank you for coming, Bob. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, my dear. I really appreciate being here, and let's make it happen again. Huh?
More info on the rock bands. That's what I want to hear.
Well, yeah, that's the problem in that I have a lot.
Do you know, is Joe Walsh still active? Mm-hmm. Is he an active ham?
Yeah, on AM 3870. Yeah, absolutely. Most of the time you'll find him there.
Amazing. I had no idea. That's awesome.
He loves to build. I mean, we're building freaks.
Well, again, another nugget of information I appreciate hearing.
Yeah, well, he's still out there, and we just have so much fun when we get together. And the fun is.
Well, thank you again.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right. Anybody got anything else really quick? Otherwise, we will wrap this up. And Yeah, again, great presentation, Bob, and I do agree as far as not having speakers but doing presentations on stuff like this. That's one of the things I've tried to do this year for this club. We've had Ed Fong come in and talk about his antennas, how they're built, things like that. Jason KM4 ECK, who does the build up high and things like that. So that's one of the things I'm trying to expand on, is to get more of really neat educational stuff that's not necessarily find all information on.
That's where it's at for me, I'll tell you. It's helping people along the way. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Happy St. Pat's Day, and we'll catch up with you somewhere. Okay.
You as well, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Kat, can you stay on for a few moments?
Sure.
You're welcome to stay too, Brian, if you want. I don't care. Thank you again, Kat, for getting Bob. Appreciate that. That was excellent.
Yeah, Kat, thank you. This is Steve Robbiano. I've heard Bob speak a couple of times previously, and every time it's the same general thing, but every time it's something different emphasis, really. And the man loves what he does so much. And so it's great to see him, great to hear him. So thank you very much for getting him.
You're welcome. He's definitely very passionate about what he talks about.
Oh, yes.
That he is.
So, Kat, I just wanted to let you know that I did, well, you saw my email earlier, and I plan on being there Sunday, so I'll drop all that stuff off when I'm there. So
okay, you're staying the whole time?
I had planned on it, yes.
Okay, that's good. We need you.
How many sessions are we up to now? Do you know? Have you?
I haven't looked today. Brian, have you? Brian?
Yeah, I'm just getting the mute off. Yeah, I looked earlier. I think we're still only on.
You just went to mute, Brian.
I think there were 2 sessions still, and we've got 4 spaces left in the second one.
Okay.
Oh, okay. It'll probably fill up between now and Sunday, though.
Yeah, it usually does. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I plan on being there, so we'll get it taken care of. And then I needed to talk to Dixon the other day, who runs is the kind of the manager there.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of funny, and I shouldn't have done this, but I did. And he bought some thing off of Kickstarter. It's like a build a computer type box thing, kind of like the Raspberry Pi things with the keyboard now. But I guess they have a ham radio add-on to it that he purchased as well through Kickstarter. And he's like, well, now I got to go get my license. And I said, well, yeah, you need to get your license, but you don't need it for this because it was just an SDR. So it's like, don't necessarily do it, but it'd be good for you to come on. So I'm trying to talk him into getting his license as well. So so that when he does we get that tower fixed over there, he can do some stuff with it as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And Brian and I've been talking about starting classes back up, or some classes at least to get on the air or something. So we're talking about that. It probably won't be till at least May, though, since I'm having surgery.
Well, hopefully by May, Boulder County will lift some of the restrictions, and we can get more people in our room and stuff. And we can talk to him about using that room at 350 Terry Street.
That'd be cool. My surgery is 2 weeks from today, so.
Well, we'll get this out of the way, and then you go take care of yourself for a couple months.
Yeah, it seems like we've been doing that for a long time.
We'll make it happen again. We'll get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just found out today. We've been trying to get HP laptops at our office. 6 months backlog right now.
Holy cow.
6 months.
Is that because of all the people working from home?
Yep, that's part of it, and the fact that they can't get parts.
Wow.
So, so yeah, if you want to buy a computer, if you're looking for something special, you probably won't get it right away.
Can't even find a video card.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them is, at least at HP, we heard it's the LCD displays for the laptops, and there's been some memory and processor backlogs, because there's only a few plants around the world that actually make processors out of silicone. So, if they're not running, they're not making anything, and they, don't do them just for that one company. They probably do them for, all kinds of different companies. I know ours, I think, where we get ours, I think makes it for a couple other companies as well. So over at Xilinx. But yeah, so just be advised if you see anything, you're not going to see anything high end anytime soon because it's backlogged.
Thinking of all the students that don't get computers as well.
Yep.
Hey,
Well,
Brian, I sent you an email a couple hours ago. Just get back to me whenever it's a good time for me to come pick up that copper.
Okay, sure, we'll do.
Appreciate it.
all right. Does anybody got anything else they want to bring up while we're just sitting here rag chewing?
Yeah, while we're just rag chewing, are you come tomorrow or Friday, or are you going to do it next?
Probably Friday, Dick. I'll come by and we'll test that coax out and get it recrimped and resoldered and get it reconnected. Probably Friday morning. I'm thinking around 9 or 10.
Okay, I'll be ready. I got the PL259s in today.
Okay. Did you ever figure out the electrical issue?
No.
Okay.
I talked to a couple of people and don't seem to have any answer for it, and so
they're dumbfounded like we are, huh?
Yeah, and then I guess the first thing is we could put the meter on the socket up there. One guy said he thought maybe it was a bad switch, but I hard to believe that two would have gone bad at the same time.
Yeah, because I think the switch for the fan is first, and then the light. I don't remember which one, if it's vice versa, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go up there and try to electrocute myself then.
Yeah, well, I've got a lamp thing we could put up there so you can see what's going on.
Oh, you got one of the plug-in ones to just tell you?
Well, it's just an old lamp that I have used. I hope I'll find it.
Yeah, we'll play around and see if we can make it work and figure out what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good. And I'm betting it's the coax at the ballon end.
Okay.
And then we check the ballon first. If it looks good, then because I'm at a dead short down here, and we only really moved your end, the upstairs one, and so probably just snip that off, check the cable then. If we don't have a short, we know it's in that PL259, put a new one on.
Yep. Yeah, I doubt it's the ballon, but we can give that a look. And like I said, everything looked good up there. And last time all I do is bring it down, unscrew it, screw it back on, and things started working. So.
Yeah, it's probably not the ballon, but that's so easy to check when we first start out. So we'll look there at least.
And then we'll plan another time when I've got half a day or a day to take care of those isotrons. That's gonna be a day project.
Yeah, it's gonna take. Well, we should be even if you want to move them and at least put the mast down toward the laundry room and leave the antennas up there because they're so sensitive to touch. But once we put the star washers on there, that should help that, and it won't be so sensitive to the counterpoise changing things.
Right. Well, we'll talk about that. That'll have to be another day. So.
Yep.
But we'll plan a time for that.
Yeah, they're working fine now, and the radio tuner takes care of it. They're not out by much, so
okay.
Only the 6 meter when it's awful.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about 6 meters right now. There's nothing going on. Get the dipole going, I can be on 6 on the dipole.
There you go. Well, his that parametric receive audio system equalizer, it's only $250 MFRP, so it's not, and I when he was demonstrating, definitely could tell the difference. So I might have to look at that as another toy somewhere down the road. Add to my collection.
Was that 200 including the speaker too, or that was just the box itself only?
Looks like just possibly the box itself. Let me see if it says.
Yeah, the speaker is another $150, I think, something like that. It's $249. I poked around while we were online with him, and it looked like everybody's selling it at list. But it's a nicely built box. I've seen one in person, and it's not just thrown together. Quite well engineered.
It looks like you can get them at DX Engineering. Gigaparts, Ham World, HRO. So it looks like you can get them just about anywhere. Wait for them to see if they show up on sale somewhere. Or somebody's got a used one at a ham fest.
We'll have to get to Hamfest again then.
Yeah, well, Pat was saying at the beginning of the meeting, those are still on, I guess Cheyenne group is going to do a ham fest in October up in Cheyenne.
That's great. Something to
And
look forward to.
and just so you know, also I'm working with Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting as well. Is we're trying to do a group fox hunt between the clubs.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, we were talking about maybe doing some type of not really a ham fest, but kind of like a outdoor fest, tailgate type fest, where people can come in, set up tables in the parking lot, and it's almost like an outdoor ham fest. Maybe doing something like that as well. So that's some of the things we're looking into to hopefully get this thing, ham fest kicked off, because ours is definitely official canceled for this year, considering, April 4th is around the corner, and things like that. And of course, Northern Colorado didn't have one this year either, because of COVID. They managed to sneak one in last year because theirs was in January. But we're working on year 2 of not having a ham fest. And there's a lot of clubs that are like that as well. So there's, I think, August, September timeframe when, allegedly, end of May, everybody should be open enough that anybody can get their shots, according to our governor. By August, a good chunk of the people have their shots, and I think that'd be the perfect time to put something together, and should hopefully get a nice turnout.
Sounds great.
And we're trying to plan it so it's in between the clubs, so it's not, it's not favoring them, it's not favoring us, things like that. So we're looking at all the aspects of this to make sure it's fair and equal. And I got a meeting on Friday night, our first kickoff meeting, to try to see if we can pull this off. So hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. So.
Well, folks, I'm going to log off. Great to see you all. See you
you
on the net, or see you next month.
That or you can come out to POTA, or you can do the Fox Hunt this month with us as well. So.
I'm doing a balloon launch on Saturday. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I definitely would be there.
Where are you doing a balloon launch at?
With Edge of Space Science folks. It's, okay. Yeah, it's down. Go to Denver and then go east.
Okay.
And then the balloon goes north.
North.
Yeah. So
is Steve Mears still involved with that and helping with that, or?
He is, I believe. Good. Yeah, I've just started getting involved with him. This will be my first launch. One of the guys that I work with was involved with the group, so
yeah,
he did the meteorology for it. So yeah.
A couple of years ago, Steve did a presentation for us on Edge of Space Sciences here at the club. Really nice job. I used to work at the company that him and his another guy started in Toronto for several years. After they sold it off, the company went to hell, but it's still around.
I know that name. You're in data. You're an IT guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my background too. So yeah.
I was in Toronto for about 3 years, and it was after those two guys left and they got rid of the company. It pretty much you go anywhere, people are like, used to be a great place to work for when Steve and I forget the gentleman's name, used to run the company, but after that, Steve's actually, I'm over at Xilinx.
Oh, okay.
So Steve's new company, George and Steve, they're doing high-speed DNA testing now with a company called Andy, and they're renting space from Xilinx over there. So I see him on the campus, or used to see him on the campus every so often.
Right.
So I've talked to him, but very, very smart guy.
There's a whole group of guys on there that, I've been on a bunch of meetings with them. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
So it should be fun. It should be fun.
Do they have a lot of experiments on this one? Because I know I think they
like to keep it. Well, there's it's a group of payloads from it's a STEM group.
Okay.
That's being sponsored, and then they also have their own experimental payloads on this one. So, but yeah, quite a production to do that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then we'll wait to see if those batteries ever enter the atmosphere and that the ISS threw out. Did you guys read about that?
No.
It was 2.9 tons of used batteries from the ISS on I guess it was like on a pallet. They let go of it from the ISS, and I guess they said it's going to take like 5 years to orbit the Earth and then finally enter the atmosphere and burn up. It was the largest payload ever released from the ISS. And I believe they said it was released. I saw it on an article. Let's see if I can find it really quick since I got everybody's seems to be an attention getter, which I like. I've been doing a lot. I'm trying to do satellites now, so I keep an eye on all this
I
stuff.
was going to say you could probably shoot a beam across the ionized trail behind it. It could be interesting.
2.9 ton battery pallet becomes largest object discharged from the space station. And they released it on, it looks like, when did they say they released it here? Do they have a date? It's 2.9 tons of nickel hydrogen batteries. And they released it, I guess, last Thursday morning.
Those will produce a nice boom when they start burning.
Well, as long as it burns up and it doesn't cause any problems, And apparently they launched it to the point where it orbits the Earth and won't hit anything else. So,
wow.
I think they said it will take. Let's see. And it is being monitored by Space Command, so it's got a, it's a space object that they are monitoring to make sure nothing happens. I thought I read here somewhere. I must have read someplace else. It said it would take probably 4 or 5 years for it to enter the atmosphere. I just found that interesting. So
yeah, definitely. Well, thanks again, folks. Have a great evening.
Thanks for coming. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It looks like the ISS will be over in 5 minutes. So.
Wow. Cool.
And I don't know if it's clear enough or not, or see it outside. Actually, as of right now, it's at 78 degrees elevation, so you should be able to see it across the sky if there's no clouds out. And they got the APRS working, so at 2101 is the max altitude. Starts at in 4 minutes. So, all right, everyone, thank you for attending. I appreciate it as always. Keep it up, and we'll meet again next month, or I'll see somebody on Saturday or Sunday.
See you then.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
night. Bye-bye.
Bye. As a reminder, I think I've done this at past meetings. We do record our meetings. One day we might actually get them out on YouTube. We're still working on that. So, but we do record our meetings. So hopefully in the future you can get a copy if you like, or be able to see it on a LARC YouTube channel, which we're working on. So. I'm just upset I left my video at work. I had a nice little dancing leprechaun background that I used for my calls today. So, of course, I'd probably drive everybody crazy if I kept it on the whole meeting.
How much did you get snow-wise up in Cheyenne while you were gone?
We got 30 inches of snow in Cheyenne. It's a new record by an additional 5 inches. The previous record was 25.6 inches. And we got over 30 inches.
We had just a little under 24 here at the house.
Cheyenne is still not moving very well.
Yeah, that much snow takes a while.
Yeah.
Well, with the weight of the snow and the warm weather yesterday, I went out and checked it this morning, and there's less than 11 inches left.
Well, Cheyenne hasn't had very much sun either, So it's still lots of snow. In fact, the school, our daughter is a school nurse at one of the schools up here, and they're still closed as of tomorrow. Nobody can get there.
Wow.
But you know, it's Wyoming. Wyomingites are tough.
Oh yeah, you have to be to live up there.
Yeah, boy, I guess. It's true. You're all invited to come to Green Valley. We'll be down here January through March of next year.
All right, I'm counting 35 people, and it looks like we're about almost 7 o'clock. So